Today's obscure operating system shenanigans are brought to you by Squarespace. But more on that in a bit. Today, we're going to install BeOS on a 20th anniversary Macintosh. Yes, that's right, BeOS, the same obscure operating system that melted my brain when we tried to install it on an officially supported computer. So, what could possibly go wrong trying to install an obscure 90s operating system on an even more obscure 90s Macintosh? All I know is we're not stopping until this thing works. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy ferociously fighting finicky French operating systems, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. I don't always lose my mind when trying to install something, but when I do, it's probably BeOS. So what is BeOS? Well, in the last video where we fought BeOS, in between bouts of existential suffering, let's install B. And it froze. We talked about the history of this really interesting lost operating system, which almost became the base for macOS 10. Check out that video right here. But long story short, there was once a very smart early Apple director named Jean-Louis Gassier. But Mr. Gassier ne jouait pas bien with a certain Steve Jobs, and had a bit of an influence on Steve's 1985 departure from Apple. Well, Jean-Louis himself left Apple in 1991 to start B Inc., the company that released a way ahead of its time B-Box computer and the BeOS operating system that powered it, which was eventually ported to both PowerPC and x86. When Apple was looking to replace their aging classic macOS in the mid to late 90s, BeOS was very attractive. It was fast and actually already booted natively on a lot of Macintoshes, right out of the box. Well, that dastardly Steve Jobs just so happened to have his own next-gen operating system. Oh my god, it's so heavy. And as this t-shirt commemorates, Apple wound up buying Next instead, and using Next Step as the core and foundation of macOS 10. In fact, it's still the foundation of macOS right up until today. Unfortunately, this led to the slow decline of poor old BeOS, which, despite some late 90s attempts at making it an embedded OS for things like web appliances, slowly faded out of existence. But I don't want to talk about the demise of BeOS. We're going back to its heyday, BeOS 4.5. After the fiasco trying to install B last time, I went and bought a brand new, well, kind of smushed, but sealed retail copy of BeOS 4.5, which is the installer actually for x86 and PowerPC. And yes, I know, trying to install this on such an obscure machine as the 20th anniversary Mac seems like kind of a weird choice after we struggled so much trying to get this to run on an actually supported Macintosh. But somebody actually reached out to me on social media, and they had pictures of their TAM running BeOS, and they said that everything works, even the sound, and they used it to play MP3s on this awesome BOSE sound system. Of course, our TAM is far from a stock machine. This thing is packed with upgrades, including a G4 processor upgrade, a SATA card that is booting from a SATA SSD, and the super drive from an Intel Mac Pro. But I'm pretty confident that BeOS will run on this thing because the stock 603E processor is still in there. It's just bypassed by the G4 once it boots into macOS. So BeOS should just run on the stock processor. And this SATA controller card just shows up as SCSI to the operating system. So my ideal outcome here is that this thing dual boots BeOS and macOS 9. And I'm pretty sure that we can make it happen. Right after this word about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Create a fast, beautiful, and rich web experience for your business or brand using Squarespace's powerful all-in-one platform. It's really easy to get started. Like, say I wanted to build a website all about how much I just love the 20th anniversary Macintosh, despite its quirks. Not only could I build it in minutes with Squarespace, but it would be well designed, responsive, and mobile friendly. There's a ton of beautiful templates that I could choose to start from. And from there, it's simple to build a great looking site that's also fast and responsive. With Squarespace's extensive built-in toolset, I can also optimize for SEO, manage a mailing list, check my analytics, and much more, all geared towards managing your entire web presence. So check out squarespace.com/actionretro today for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code ActionRetro to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, so let's check out what actually comes in a brand new, never used, ostensibly sealed copy of BeOS 4.5. And this is so chewed up, of course, because the seller sent it in one of these guys here without any other protection. Yeah, so somebody has obviously been in here before, but they didn't actually cut it open enough to take the books out. So look, we're the first people to actually take the installation guide out of here. But the most important thing is the CD-ROM, which looks clean. No scratches, no cracks. So that's good. And this disk is only if we're installing this on x86. So we're installing on a PowerPC Mac. We don't need this. Yeah, look at this user's guide with screenshots and everything. Can you imagine software coming with a big old user guide like this today? Okay, so a couple of things that I want to do first to give us hopefully the best chance for success. I have my Titanium PowerBook G4 here, dutifully copying the files off of the TAM's SATA SSD over FireWire, and then I'm going to repartition this with a dedicated BeOS partition, copy everything back to the macOS partition, and hopefully it still boots like that. And then we'll try to install BeOS, and if something goes wrong, we have our trusty TieBook backup here to fall back on. All right, all of the TAM files are safe and sound on the TieBook, so I'm going to run the patched version of Apple Drive setup here to reinitialize the TAM's SSD over FireWire. Well, let's give BeOS 40, we'll give macOS 9 a nice 80, and all the rest will have another partition reserved for future shenanigans. Now I'll copy everything back. And hopefully this thing just boots. Man, just look at how fast FireWire was. FireWire was so good. Oh, and the other thing I've done to hopefully make this install go as smoothly as possible, I've taken out our custom G4 processor upgrade, and I've just put back the original cache card. So yeah, hopefully that is good. I'm just going to do the old dangle method here for the hard drive. And for optical drive, I'm really hoping that it will work with my ridiculous super drive from a Intel Mac Pro. But if it doesn't, we're going to go old school, because the TAM does have a SCSI port. All right, booting the TAM from our reconfigured hard drive. It does not appear to see it. All right, booting off the macOS 9 install CD from the super drive, which is still as ridiculous as ever. And yeah, we'll make sure this hard drive can be read by macOS 9. And I think probably it just doesn't have the drivers or the system blessing on the system folder that we copied over. So we'll fix that now. Okay, so this hard drive was giving me a lot of weird problems, like it wasn't seeing all of the partitions under macOS 9, but it did on OS 10, so I don't know. But through the cunning use of, I found another hard drive lying around, I think we're going to be okay because it seems like macOS 9 can see our 3 partitions when I do them here. So let's plug this in. And yep, we are booting off of that drive now with our 3 partitions showing up no problem. So I guess the moral of this story is if you're doing weird stuff with your TAM, don't use a Kingston SSD for your SATA controller card. So we have 2 partitions here. Our Mac partition at, well, it's supposed to be 40 gigs, showing as 35.88. And our BeOS partition at 20.38 gigs. So less than the other drive, but I think it's more than enough. And I have not tried this BeOS CD yet, so yeah. Let's find out together if it's going to work. Oh good, there it is. BeOS Tools. Now, the way we install BeOS is to go in the Macintosh folder here, go into BeOS Mac Tools. We install this stuff to the hard drive. So BeOS Launcher Application. And then the OS Chooser is an extension. So at this point, we are supposed to be able to run the BeOS launcher to launch into the BeOS actual installer to put it onto the partition. But there's a couple gotchas that we might run into thanks to all the wonky stuff that we've done to the TAM. One, it's very possible that the BeOS launcher application is not going to recognize this SATA SuperDrive from an Intel Mac Pro, which has no business being on a TAM. The second thing is BeOS might not understand the SATA SSD on a SATA controller card, so we might have to put a dedicated hard drive on the original IDE connector. But anyway, I have no idea if it's going to work or not. Let's give it a try. Okay, at this point, it should have at least displayed the B logo, and our CD is not spinning, so I'm going to guess it's not working. But according to our lovely printed manual, we should restart the machine and then choose BeOS when that extension kicks in at macOS initialization and see if that boots from the CD. All right, selecting Start BeOS. Problem loading bootstrap information. What does that mean? Time to call in the big guns. We're going SCSI. All right, selecting BeOS. Problem loading bootstrap information. Oh my goodness. All right, let's try to launch it from within macOS. B logo. All right, well, it just stuck on the B logo forever, so I restarted it. Let's try this again. Problem loading bootstrap information. B. Oh, I think we're getting somewhere. Oh my God. Is that the BeOS startup chime? Okay, well, I think it's booted into BeOS, but there's no backlight. I can see like the faint outline of a box on the screen, but something's not right. Okay, I've made big progress. Ridiculous progress, but big progress nonetheless. I was right that B did boot on here because check it out. I used an external monitor and we have BeOS running. Now, how did I get an external monitor running on a 20th anniversary Macintosh? Well, a friend of the channel very kindly donated this Apple external video connector, which since the TAM is based on a pre-existing Power Mac, it works in and gives me video out in just a little bit of a convoluted way. So here it is, BeOS running on the TAM. Now, I don't quite know why it's not displaying on the TAM's internal screen, but this display is a mirror of what the TAM should be displaying. So I'm wondering if I can just tweak in the preferences here. Hey! Look, there it is. It's on the TAM. It's on the TAM. It's on the TAM. Hey, where'd it go? Oh, it reverted. Okay, hold on. It's working. Okay, we're going to do 32-bit color, 800 by 600, apply. And keep. Hey! Okay, I'm going to unplug the external monitor now because I don't think we need it. Let's look at BeOS running on the TAM. Also, I did cheat a little bit more. You see, I've been tinkering trying to get this to work, and I wound up taking out the SATA SSD, and in fact, taking out all of the goofy upgrades that we put in there. And I used an SD card on the IDE bus, and I actually found on the Internet Archive an image with BeOS 5 for PowerPC Mac installed along with a very bare bones macOS 8. And that is what we're running on the machine now. So as it happens, I still have no frickin' luck with original B install media. Okay, so I want to take just a quick poke around B running on the TAM and see what it's like before we try some more experiments, like see if these upgrades can actually work with BeOS. And already, wow, the mouse cursor is a little crazy. It's extremely fast. I've never actually used the original BeOS. I've only used Haiku. But this image seems to have a bunch of interesting things. Cool stuff for BeOS. Oh, look at that. It's a web browser, web positive. All right, I really need to take care of this mouse. Slow this way down. Change it to a one-button mouse. Ooh, we've got demos. GL Teapot running at 10 FPS. Hey, check it out. I was poking around in here. It actually comes with CL Amp installed, which is basically Winamp. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that. Double size with the Winamp skin. Oh, that's sweet. Okay, so I have all the upgrades back in, except for the processor. We'll save that for last. But we have full 128 megs of RAM, USB card, SATA controller card, and just the super drive plugged into the SATA card for now. Let's see if it boots BeOS. Yes, it's still working. All right, B. Oh my god, that is the loudest, most obnoxious boot chime ever. But hey, we're booted. All right, well, apparently it sees 2 CD-ROM drives. I don't know if that's true. I think this is the external and this is the internal, but it doesn't see the stuff on the SATA controller card. We have Sheep Shaver here installed under apps. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. Oh man, how silly is that? We've got a Mac running on BeOS on a 20th anniversary Mac. All right, well, final test. I have everything reconnected, including the G4 upgrade. Let's see if we can get into BeOS, and it looks like we did. There it goes. Yep, just as we suspected, it is still running on the 603E processor, despite the G4 being installed because, well, there's no driver for the G4 processor for BeOS. Although I do kind of wonder if there's a way we can trick it into running on the G4, but I think that's going to have to wait. Okay, so that'll do it for today's video. I said we were going to get BeOS working on this thing, and we frickin' did it. Granted, it is now The day of the release of this video, I've been tinkering with this for quite a while, and I still can't believe original install media just doesn't want to work. But thanks to that kind PowerPC Mac shenanigans enthusiast on the Internet Archive, we are up and running. Now, it's not exactly ideal because we're running off of an SD card on IDE, and BeOS just doesn't see the stuff on the SATA controller card, because obviously nobody ever thought to write drivers for a SATA controller card on BeOS for PowerPC. But I think there's still kind of a convoluted way that we can make this thing really dual boot. I think if we use startup key combinations and leave the SATA SSD installed with the SD card, we can choose whether it boots off of IDE or the SATA controller card, which means I think we can use the partition that was intended for BeOS for something a little more Linuxy. But if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more slowly going insane as we wrestle with BeOS on a TAM, please subscribe down below, and thank you very much for watching. And a special thanks to Camilla Noseda, Chris Allegretta, Chris Biggs, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, Cobalt Retrotech, Control-Alt-Reese, Daniel Hubbard, Dwight A. Spencer, Greg from Rutk Mods, Paul Spencer, Ryan, Scott Thompson, and Sutek, who are my highest tiered patrons and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible.